Imagine standing in the absolute wreckage of a society that is just completely obsessed with categorizing every single human trait.
Oh, yeah. Like everywhere you look, there's just boxes and files.
Right, just standing there amid a million little boxes, a million little files, and suddenly you look around and you finally see the utter absurdity of the whole
They
thing.
finally see the trick,
Yeah.
the illusion of all those categories.
Exactly. So today, we are taking a deep dive into a modern manifesto written by someone who basically decided to just walk right out of that wreckage.
Which is quite a bold move.
It really is. We're exploring the anatomy of a label, and we're looking at the raw, honestly electrifying testimony of a speaker who is fiercely rejecting the categories he was placed in.
He is straight up demanding unfiltered human freedom.
He really is. And I mean, the sources we have today, they're fascinating.
Oh, it's a remarkable set of sources. We're looking at these intense monologues and also some cinematic storyboards, which is super unique.
Yeah, visual storyboards.
Right. And they basically function as a deeply philosophical deconstruction of how we identify ourselves. And honestly, more importantly, how society identifies us.
Which is something I think everyone listening can relate to on some level.
For sure. But it is worth noting right out of the gate, the speaker here takes absolutely no prisoners. I mean, he is going after conservative traditions, liberal marketing, academic theories, corporate structures, just everything.
Which is exactly why we need to lay down some ground rules for ourselves before we really get into it.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Because the tone of these sources is sharp. I mean, it is unapologetic and incredibly witty. It's definitely not some sanitized corporate speech.
Oh, not at all. It's the testimony of what he calls a living man.
Right. But because he touches on such highly charged cultural and political themes, both left-wing and right-wing, I want to be super clear about our goal today.
And that goal is impartiality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our mission today isn't to validate his politics or to endorse these specific viewpoints. We're not picking sides.
We are just here to understand the intellectual framework he's built.
Exactly. Because the way he deconstructs identity and algorithms and cultural norms,
Yeah.
it's fascinating, regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum.
Totally. We're just here to impartially unpack the architecture of his thoughts, so you, the listener, can fully grasp what he's actually arguing.
So to understand why this speaker is fighting so incredibly hard to escape labels, we can't really start with his specific identity, right?
No, we have to start exactly where he starts, which is diagnosing the room he was placed in to begin with.
The metaphorical room.
Right. He points a very sharp finger straight at the societal baseline. He actually argues that the dominant culture established the quote-unquote first identity politics.
Okay, that phrase stood out to me immediately. The first identity politics.
It's a heavy accusation.
It is. It's this idea that heterosexuality, or just the dominant societal norm in general, is an identity that pretends it isn't one.
Right. It calls itself the default.
Yeah. The text actually claims that this heterosexual agenda labeled the room first. It called itself nature and normal.
While simultaneously painting absolutely everything else as an alternative or, a special interest group.
I mean, it's a profound historical and cultural observation when you think about it.
It really is. The speaker is completely flipping the script on that really common accusation that marginalized groups are the ones who are, quote, obsessed with identity.
Yes, because people say that all the time.
Exactly. But he points out that the first identity parades weren't pride marches. They were wedding commercials and church aisles and Disney endings.
Oh, I loved that line. Every movie where boy meets girl and the universe claps like God signed the paperwork.
It's such a sharp critique, right?
It's so good. But let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around the actual mechanics of this. He's essentially saying that the dominant culture makes its own identity mandatory, but also completely invisible.
That is the exact mechanism, yeah. When something is the dominant norm, it doesn't ever need to announce itself as an identity.
It just calls itself reality.
Right. Think about how history has treated literally anything outside that rigid norm. It's always categorized as a deviation.
Like a glitch.
Exactly. The speaker exposes the hypocrisy of a system that actively forces people outside the center of society, systematically labels them as other,
And then acts entirely shocked and offended when those exact marginalized people form communities based on those labels.
You nailed it. It's a wild double standard.
I was actually trying to come up with a way to visualize this for you guys listening, and it feels exactly like the operating system on a computer.
Oh, the OS analogy. I like this.
Right,
Okay.
because the dominant culture acts like this invisible OS. It claims, hey, this is just how computers work.
Right. It doesn't see itself as software. It just assumes it is the hardware.
Exactly.
Right.
And then it views anything different, like any other way of living or loving, as a glitch.
Yeah.
Or like it's some suspicious third-party app that needs to be heavily monitored.
Or restricted or quarantined. Yeah, the operating system analogy is actually perfect because an OS dictates all the rules of engagement without ever making you read the code.
It just runs in the background.
Exactly. And the text provides a really brilliant metaphor for this geographic exclusion, too. The speaker describes society as a map.
Okay,
Yeah. And on this map, the dominant norm named itself the country. And everyone else was treated like a border dispute.
a border dispute. That is so incredibly dismissive.
Right. And he jokes with this classic biting wit that he has throughout the text that the original rainbow was beige, obedient, reproductive, and violently boring.
Wow. Violently boring. I actually had to stop and think about that phrase for a minute.
It's a very deliberate pairing of words, isn't it?
It really is.
It implies that the boring beige default isn't just a passive state of affairs. It is actively maintained through a kind of quiet, systemic violence.
Like you're forced to be boring, or else...
Right. The exclusion is built into the normalcy. If you don't fit the beige criteria, you don't just feel out of place. You are actively removed from the center of power.
You're removed from safety, from the narrative itself.
Totally.
Okay, so if we accept that the individual who doesn't fit the beige default is pushed out into the elements, what happens next?
Well, you have to survive, right?
Right, because if you're out in the cold, you have to invent a way to survive.
Yeah.
And I think this leads us directly to the speaker's deeply complex relationship with the LGBTQIA+ acronym.
Yeah, and this is where the text requires some really careful parsing.
Because given his absolute disdain for the beige default and categorization in general, you might naturally assume he just hates the acronyms and the labels entirely.
Right, you'd think he'd want to burn the whole dictionary. But he doesn't.
He doesn't.
He makes a very crucial distinction. He explicitly honors these letters.
He actually calls them a shelter built with blood in the rain, which, I mean, that is just such a striking, visceral image.
It really is. The text frames these labels as a vital organizational necessity.
Like a survival tool.
Exactly. Historically speaking, when you are pushed into that border dispute, you are stripped of resources.
You're completely isolated.
Right. So these labels allowed people to find each other in the dark, to grieve together, to dance.
And crucially, to demand medicine during health crises.
Mm.
And to secure basic legal dignity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's this quote I know you pulled because it's just devastatingly effective.
Oh, yes. He says to the dominant culture, "You made the alphabet necessary. Now don't get mad because we learned to spell."
I mean, wow, it's a brilliant defense of the necessity of identity labels for survival.
It really puts the responsibility back on the people who built the beige wall.
Totally. The text is drawing a strict line between a label as an externally imposed cage and a label as a reclaimed tool.
So a label, in the hands of the marginalized, is a survival mechanism.
Yes. It is a beacon that says, you are not broken, others exist, come here.
Okay, but I have to push back a little here, or at least play devil's advocate for the sake of the deep dive.
Go for it.
If the shelter is so vital, and it literally saves lives and secured legal rights, why is he so eager to abandon it?
That's a very fair question.
Right. Isn't it a bit privileged to just declare you're done with the label once society has progressed enough that you feel relatively safe? How does he reconcile abandoning the very shelter that protected him?
And that is exactly the friction the text is exploring right there. He isn't saying the shelter was a mistake.
Okay.
He's saying a shelter is not a home.
Ah, I see.
He honors the tool deeply, but he recognizes the psychological danger of the tool becoming a permanent state of being. The text argues that staying in the shelter forever once the immediate storm has passed or changed, it stunts your human growth.
I get it. It's like wearing a cast for a broken arm.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, because that cast is absolute magic for healing, right?
Right.
It protects the bone, it gives you structure when you're super vulnerable, and you absolutely need it.
But if you leave it on...
Exactly. If you never take that cast off, your arm atrophies. The muscle literally dies from lack of use.
Right.
You could be deeply, profoundly grateful for an umbrella, but still passionately want to stand in the sun.
That cast analogy hits the nail on the head. because the cast is inherently defined by the injury.
Right. It only exists because you were broken.
Yes. And the speaker is demanding an identity that is defined by more than just the wound or the exclusion, which brings us to the core tension of this entire deep dive.
What happens when the survival tool becomes its own trap?
Exactly. How does he reclaim his identity when the label starts demanding too much? Because the text gets incredibly fierce in this next section.
It really ramps up.
He violently rejects the idea of leaving the prison of straight versus gay, only to be handed what he calls a prettier prison.
The prettier prison. He specifically calls out the prettier prison of queer versus normie.
Yes. He refuses to be flattened into a brand new us versus them binary.
He's basically saying, I didn't break out of the beige default just to eagerly lock myself inside another box, even if this new box has better music.
Exactly. And the text introduces this haunting concept to explain this trap. He describes a label, when it goes too far, as becoming a little landlord in the mind charging rent.
A little landlord in the mind. I felt that. That phrasing is so incredibly visceral.
It really sticks with you.
But how does that landlord actually operate day to day? Like, practically speaking.
Well, the internal landlord basically represents intra-community policing.
Yeah.
The text argues that once you adopt the label as your entire identity, this internal landlord starts demanding a very specific performance from you.
Like it has rules.
Right. It demands a specific aesthetic, a specific set of acceptable political views, a specific tone of voice, and even a specific relationship to your own trauma.
Wow. So it requires you to constantly prove that you actually belong in the shelter.
Exactly. It's essentially an ideological purity test.
That makes me think of, okay, imagine escaping a highly restrictive, incredibly judgmental hometown.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You finally get out, you pack your bags, and you move into this ultra-progressive, exclusive, gated community. And you feel safe.
Right, you're with your people.
Exactly. But then you realize this new community has an HOA.
A homeowners association. Oh, no.
Yes, an HOA that dictates exactly what color you must paint your house, what plants you can grow in the front yard, and what thoughts you're allowed to express at the neighborhood block party.
That is so accurate.
You've changed locations, your neighbors have completely different bumper stickers, but the mechanism of control is identical. You still aren't actually free.
The HOA analogy is a perfect modern translation of the landlord in the mind.
It's exhausting.
And the speaker defiantly, almost joyfully states, I am not paying.
Good for him.
He utterly refuses to be a mascot. Not for conservatives to fear, not for liberals to market to, not for academics to theorize about.
And definitely not for corporations to package into a demographic. But if both the beige default and the prettier prison are cages, what is the alternative here? How does he actually describe his identity without using the label as a landlord?
He answers that by completely changing the grammatical weight of the label.
The grammatical weight, what do you mean?
Well, he says he can say the phrase gay man the exact same way someone says oak tree, thunderstorm, river, beautiful mess.
Oh, a note in the song, not the whole damn symphony.
Exactly. It is a description. It is true. It is real. It is a fact of nature. But it is not the entirety of his existence.
It doesn't come with an ideological rulebook.
Right. The text posits a very radical idea for our current cultural climate. Freedom isn't finding the perfect, most granular identity category to fit into.
So it's not about making smaller and smaller boxes.
No. Sometimes true freedom is relaxing your death grip on identity altogether.
Relaxing the death grip, which honestly is incredibly difficult to do when society is constantly demanding to know what team you play for.
Oh, absolutely.
And this fight, this refusal to be reduced to a single label, isn't just a personal, internal psychological struggle. It actually plays out on a massive cultural stage.
It's everywhere.
If we accept that the individual is trapped by these labels, how does that play out on a macro level? Because the text argues we actually see this exact friction in how society misinterprets universal symbols.
Right. And this centers on the second text we're analyzing today.
Let's talk about the rainbow, for example.
Yes. The speaker's thesis here is highly provocative. He argues that the rainbow was never gay in the narrow, compartmentalized way people mean it today.
He strips it right back to its origins. He says the rainbow is an ancient universal symbol of post-destruction dignity.
Right. If you look at the biblical roots of the symbol, the rainbow appears after the flood.
After total devastation.
Exactly. It appears after total destruction, after judgment. It is a universal covenant, a promise from the divine that life cannot simply be erased.
It is a boundary against annihilation.
Yes. It belongs to humanity as a whole, not a political faction.
And this leads to his profound frustration with what he calls stained glass hypocrisy.
Such a powerful phrase.
It really is. He points out the stunning cognitive dissonance of people who will sit in a church under a beautifully illuminated stained glass window, sing hymns about mercy and the biblical covenant of the rainbow.
And then they will walk outside and view those exact same colors as a cultural threat when they are carried down the street by marginalized people.
The text actually calls it fear-wearing church shoes.
It's a biting critique of how dominant institutions hoard universal grace.
Hoarding grace.
They claim the symbol of survival entirely for themselves, but then deny it to the people who are currently fighting to survive.
I actually had to read that part twice to really get the depth of it. How do you read an ancient story about destruction ending? Look out your window and see a group of people literally begging not to be destroyed by society and decide that they are the threat.
It really reveals the mechanics of the societal machine, doesn't it?
It does.
The machine actively diminishes profound human cries by recategorizing them. It takes a universal claim of human rights, the fundamental right to exist without being erased, and it immediately files it under special interest.
Oh, I see. By labeling the rainbow as the gay thing, the dominant culture performs a very clever bureaucratic trick.
Exactly.
It allows them to dismiss a raw, desperate cry for universal mercy as nothing more than a niche political agenda.
Precisely. It transforms a demand for basic human dignity into a partisan issue.
And once it's a partisan issue, it can be debated.
It can be legislated against or safely ignored on the evening news. The categorization itself is a tool of dismissal.
But the text also points out that the true nature of the rainbow is deeply threatening to that machine.
Oh, yeah.
The speaker describes the rainbow as many colors held together without becoming one beige wall. Let's unpack that, because it's a beautiful analogy for plurality. It's unity without sameness.
Plurality is terrifying to a system that requires uniformity to maintain control.
Right, going back to the operating system we talked about earlier, it wants everything standardized.
Exactly. But the rainbow says that life after the storm is plural. It doesn't ask blue to become yellow. It doesn't blend all the colors into a muddy brown.
It holds differences in tension, side by side, in a state of mutual respect.
It makes unity look like something better than just sameness.
But, of course, the societal machine doesn't want that. It wants everything neatly categorized, smoothed out, and totally uniform.
Right. And as frustrating as that human societal machine is, the speaker actually takes this philosophy into an even darker place.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Because what happens when we automate that categorization process?
This introduces the third text, which takes the whole critique into the modern digital era. The speaker directly confronts the algorithms that now police human expression.
We move from the societal cage right into the digital cage.
He calls it the machine, this automated system that sorts all human expression into safe and unsafe categories.
And the core problem, as the text states, is that the machine labeled the wound.
But I'm a bit fuzzy on the actual mechanics of this. How does an algorithm actually label a wound?
Well, to understand this, we have to look at how content moderation and natural language processing, or NLP, actually work.
Okay.
Algorithms are designed for scale. They cannot read nuance, so they rely on keyword triggers.
So they just look for specific words.
Right. The machine scans text for sharp words, profanity, or the heat of anger, and it immediately categorizes the user as a content risk.
Just based on the word itself.
Exactly. It is entirely unable to perform sentiment analysis with enough sophistication to tell the difference between a weapon being used to harm someone and a rescue flare being fired by someone who was just trying to survive.
Amputation with a spreadsheet. That phrase just stopped me in my tracks.
It's incredibly evocative.
Because a spreadsheet organizes data into rigid cells. If your human experience doesn't fit the cell, the spreadsheet just chops off the excess.
That's the amputation, the context collapse.
Right.
The machine takes a living, breathing sentence born from real human pain and treats it like a dead object. It tears the word away from the wound that gave birth to it.
Let me try to ground this with another analogy.
I love your analogies. Let's hear it.
Think about it like a remarkably dumb fire alarm in your house.
Okay.
This fire alarm goes off when it detects heat, but it triggers the exact same deafening siren, the exact same sprinkler system, whether there is a tragic deadly house fire burning down your living room, or if your family is just joyfully lighting the candles on your kid's birthday cake.
That is so true.
It only detects the thermal energy. It has absolutely zero comprehension of the soul, the intent, or the context of the event.
That is a highly accurate way to look at algorithmic context collapse.
Hmm.
And the psychological impact on the user is profound.
I can imagine.
The text notes that the machine demands survivors of harm to revise their wound. It asks them to soften the blood so that their trauma can be brand safe for advertisers.
Wow. It wants the oppression without the accusation. It wants your testimony. It wants your engagement metrics, but it wants it without the teeth.
Exactly.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate again here.
Sure.
Don't we actually need these algorithms? Like, the internet is a wildly toxic place. We need moderation to stop actual hate speech and harassment, right?
Well, the speaker isn't arguing for a lawless internet where abuse runs rampant.
Okay.
He is critiquing the illusion of algorithmic neutrality. The platforms claim their automated systems are neutral arbiters of the rules, but the speaker delivers a devastating critique of the very concept of neutrality. He asks, neutral to whom?
Neutral is what they ask from you when your honest voice makes the room remember what it did.
Oh.
Wow, that is powerful.
The text argues that neutrality is often just the accent of the comfortable.
The accent is comfortable.
Yeah, it is the word power uses when it doesn't want to admit where it is standing. The machine loves neutral because neutral is easy to process. It doesn't disrupt the advertisers.
But truth isn't always neutral.
No. Liberation is certainly not neutral. Sometimes the most immoral sentence in the room is the one raising its voice, using sharp words, because every softer word has already been ignored by the beige default.
So the algorithm classifies based on the mere presence of a word, but a mature human intelligence asks what the word is actually doing.
Exactly.
Is the anger punching down to humiliate someone? Or is it punching through a lie to expose the truth? The machine doesn't ask. It just puts you in a box.
Which brings us to the speaker's ultimate demand. He doesn't just want a better algorithm. He demands to be read whole.
Read whole.
Yes. To be read whole means interpretation must come before automated judgment. It means looking at the history underneath the heat. It means recognizing the human being before assigning the risk score.
But if labels, societal defaults, and now digital algorithms are all desperately trying to stuff human complexity into a beige box or spreadsheet cell, what does the speaker's ultimate vision of freedom actually look like?
Right, if we tear all the boxes down, where are we standing?
Exactly. Fortunately, we don't have to guess or rely purely on abstract philosophy here.
Yeah, we don't.
Because the source material provides a deeply detailed cinematic storyboard that visually maps out the entire psychological journey we've just been discussing.
It translates the intellectual framework right into a visual narrative.
The visuals are stunning, and we really need to walk through them because they bring all these abstract concepts into vivid reality.
Let's do it.
The protagonist, our speaker, the living man, starts his journey in this massive, sterile, brutalist exhibition hall.
And the architectural choices there are highly intentional.
Definitely.
The setting is brutalist, which, for context for those listening, is that architectural style from the mid-20th century, characterized by massive, cold, highly imposing, unpainted, concrete structures.
Like old government buildings?
Exactly. It's the kind of architecture that makes the individual feel tiny, processed, and institutionalized. There are these towering gray concrete walls and dark, polished concrete floors that act almost like black mirrors. This setting perfectly represents the labeled room and the machine we've been analyzing.
It feels incredibly bureaucratic and unforgiving. And the lighting starts out as this cold, strict chiaroscuro.
Right.
Which, simply put, is a harsh, extreme contrast between bright light and pitch black. There are no soft edges, no nuance. It's binary.
You are either in the glaring light of the norm, or you are cast into the absolute darkness of the border dispute.
Then the visual narrative progresses to represent the shelter in the rain. The storyboard shows water literally pouring down inside this concrete space.
The protagonist is standing right in the dark storm, lit by high-contrast, cool blue spotlights.
It's a visual representation of systemic exclusion and the necessity of those survival tools, the acronyms, to weather the storm.
But he doesn't stay in the rain?
No, we transition to the Prettier prison. The lighting suddenly shifts to these highly saturated, intense neon pinks and violets.
It casts hard-edged colors across his face.
and the camera locks into this claustrophobic, high-pressure frame. It looks cool, it looks vibrant, very modern, but he is visibly furious.
Right, because he is boxed in by the neon just as much as he was by the brutalist gray.
Because the little landlord in his mind is charging rent. The neon represents the aesthetic demands of the identity label when it becomes a cage.
Yes. But then, and this is the climax, the storyboards, we get what the text calls the thermal awakening.
The thermal awakening.
The cold, dark concrete space actually begins to warm up. This rich golden amber light rises from below.
The hard chiaroscuro shadows completely vanish. His face relaxes. He drops the death grip on his identity.
And there is a profoundly important visual detail here on the floor of the set.
Hey, right.
Shimmering ribbons of colored light trace the wet ripples on the concrete. But the storyboard specifically notes that these colors remain distinct.
They do not bleed together into a muddy puddle.
No. It perfectly mirrors the text's assertion about the rainbow. Plurality without the beige wall.
We can have unity. We can stand next to each other in solidarity without surrendering our unique individual identities into one messy, blended, uniform state. The colors respect each other's boundaries.
And the climax of the storyboard visualizes the ultimate triumph. The monumental concrete walls of this brutalist hall literally slide open like a massive door.
He doesn't just step into a new, slightly better decorated room. He walks entirely out of the architecture.
He escapes the building.
He walks out into a vast, rolling green field under an endless golden hour sky.
It's beautiful.
The ultimate visual is a man walking away from the camera, bathed in sunlight, his body language just exuding absolute unbothered freedom. He has taken the label, he has realized it was just a tool, he has made it a door, and he has walked entirely through it.
It is a powerful synthesis of the text. It shows that freedom isn't destroying the room or arguing with the algorithm to redecorate your box.
Right.
Freedom is stepping out into the human field, a space that the text describes as wide enough for contradiction.
We've covered an immense amount of ground today. We started by examining the invisible beige default of society, that operating system that forces people into rigid categories, claiming to be natural while labeling everyone else a dispute.
We really did.
We recognize how acronyms and labels serve as vital, life-saving umbrellas in the historical storm of exclusion. But we also dug deep into the profound danger of letting those labels become landlords in our minds, demanding purity and rent.
We looked at how those labels turn into algorithmic cages online, dumb fire alarms that amputate our context with a spreadsheet.
And we ended by visualizing the ultimate human triumph, holding on to our complex, plural humanity, turning the label into a door, and walking out into the vast open sun.
It is a compelling framework for navigating identity in a hyper-categorized world. And it leaves us with a critical reflection for you, the listener.
What's that?
The speaker fought fiercely to ensure his labels remained tools rather than cages. If we are all, on some level, participating in labeling ourselves and others just to navigate modern life, ask yourself, what is one label you wear today as a tool that might silently be acting as your landlord?
Are you standing in the wreckage of a categorized society holding a tool? Or are you just paying rent in a prettier prison? Keep an eye out for those little landlords.